The stars shimmered like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse of space, but on Earth, no one was admiring their beauty. News had spread faster than light itself, carried by the cold efficiency of interstellar communication systems. Humanity's leaders gathered in a dimly lit conference room aboard the orbital station Solace Prime. Their faces were grim, eyes darting nervously between holographic displays, showing the message that had arrived just hours ago. It came from the Concordant, an ancient council of alien races that ruled the galaxy with an iron grip. For centuries, humanity had avoided direct contact with them, choosing instead to quietly colonize distant planets and build its empire. But now, the Concordant had taken notice, and they weren't happy. "The time has come for your species to prove its worth," the message began, delivered in a chilling monotone by a towering golden figure known as Lord Seidlar. His voice reverberated through speakers, each word dripping with arrogance. "You have consumed resources, disrupted ecosystems, and expanded without permission. Your actions endanger the balance we have maintained for millennia." A holo image flickered to life above the table, displaying Earth surrounded by glowing red markers. It was a map of resource-rich areas, mines, forests, oceans, all labeled for extraction. The ultimatum was clear: surrender these assets to the Concordant within 30 days or face annihilation. There would be no negotiation, no compromise. This was not a request, it was a demand. Cal Armitage stood at the edge of the room, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. He wasn't part of the official delegation. He was just a junior diplomat. But he couldn't stay silent. "We can't give in," he said suddenly, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere like a blade. Heads turned toward him, some curious, others annoyed. Cal ignored the stares and stepped forward. "If we hand over our resources, we're signing our own death warrant. They'll never stop. First Earth, then Mars, then every colony we've built. We'll become slaves to their empire." One of the senior officials, a woman named Senator Marlowe, scoffed. "And what do you suggest? Fight them? Look at their ships, their weapons. They're gods compared to us." Cale didn't flinch. "Maybe they are stronger, but strength isn't everything. We've survived wars, plagues, even near extinction. That's what makes us human. We adapt, we innovate. Handing over our planet won't save us. It'll destroy us." His words hung heavy in the air, sparking murmurs among the group. Some nodded in agreement, while others shook their heads in disbelief. Outside the windows, Earth spun peacefully below, oblivious to the storm brewing above it. Cale clenched his fists, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. He knew fear could paralyze people, make them choose survival over dignity. But if humanity surrendered now, they'd lose more than their resources. They'd lose their soul. As the meeting dragged on, arguments erupted around the table. Some advocated compliance, hoping appeasement would buy time. Others pushed for resistance, though none could agree on how to fight back. Amidst the chaos, Cale slipped out of the room unnoticed. He didn't need permission to act. If the council wanted a tribute, they'd get one, but not the kind they expected. Walking briskly down the sterile corridors of Solace Prime, Cale pulled up a secure channel on his wrist communicator. "Dr. Voss," he whispered urgently, "I need you to meet me in Lab 7. Bring everything you've got on Project Ecliptica. It's time to show the galaxy what we're really made of." Little did Cale know, his decision would ignite a chain reaction that would change the fate of humanity and the entire galaxy forever. The news of the Concordant's ultimatum spread like wildfire across Earth and its colonies. Billboards in sprawling megacities flickered with urgent broadcasts, while citizens huddled around screens in cramped space stations, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. The message was clear. Humanity had 30 days to surrender its most valuable resources or face annihilation. But what wasn't clear was how to respond. Fear tore through the population, dividing them into two camps: those who believed submission was the only way to survive, and those who saw defiance as the path to freedom. In New Geneva, the United Stellar Alliance's headquarters buzzed with frantic activity. Senators, military leaders, and scientists argued late into the night, their voices echoing through marble halls. At the center of it all stood Cal Armitage, now thrust into the spotlight after his impassioned plea during the initial meeting. His call for resistance had struck a chord with some, but not everyone agreed. Senator Marlowe, a seasoned politician with decades of experience, led the faction advocating compliance. "We can rebuild," she insisted during one heated debate, slamming her fist on the table for emphasis. "If we hand over our resources, the Concordant might leave us alone. Fighting them is suicide. Look at their technology. They're centuries ahead of us." Her words resonated with many. Factories slowed production as workers whispered about the futility of resistance. Parents held their children tighter, imagining the horrors of war. Even within the alliance, dissent grew louder. Some accused Cal of recklessness, claiming his plan would doom humanity. "What's your alternative?" demanded General Rourke, a grizzled veteran known for his no-nonsense demeanor. "Do you expect us to fight gods with sticks and stones?" But Cal refused to back down. Standing tall despite the weight of criticism, he addressed the room with quiet determination. "Compliance won't save us," he said firmly. "They'll take everything we have and leave us starving, broken. If we want to live, not just survive, we need to show them that humanity isn't afraid to stand up for itself." His gaze swept across the room, locking eyes with each person present. "And I believe we have something they don't expect." That something was Project Ecliptica, a secret initiative buried deep within classified files. Developed by Dr. Elena Voss and her team of brilliant engineers, it promised to revolutionize interstellar travel. Cal had already reached out to Elena, and together they were assembling a small group of trusted allies. They worked in secrecy, knowing that revealing the project too soon could invite disaster. Outside the Alliance chambers, public opinion fractured further. Protests erupted in major cities, with crowds chanting slogans like "No tribute" and "Stand together." Meanwhile, others pleaded for peace, holding signs that read "Save our children" and "Better alive than free." Social media platforms exploded with debates, turning neighbors against neighbors and families against themselves. In orbiting colonies, tensions boiled over into violence as factions clashed over differing beliefs. Amidst the chaos, Cal found solace in unlikely places. He visited refugee camps housing displaced survivors from past conflicts, listening to their stories of resilience. He spoke with factory workers risking their lives daily to keep supply chains running. Each conversation strengthened his resolve. These people didn't want empty promises. They wanted hope, and Cal intended to give it to them. By the end of the week, Cal's coalition began taking shape. Alongside Dr. Voss, he recruited Captain Mira Solis, a daring pilot with unmatched combat skills, and Zane Cato, a hacker genius capable of infiltrating even the most secure systems. Together, they plotted a daring strategy, one that combined diplomacy, innovation, and sheer audacity. As the clock ticked closer to the Concordance deadline, humanity teetered on the brink of collapse. Yet amidst the division, a spark of unity began to emerge. People started asking questions. What does it mean to be human? Is survival enough? Or is there something worth fighting for? Cal didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing for certain. Humanity's response to the Concordant would define not just their future, but the fate of the entire galaxy. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in a hidden facility known only as Lab 7, Cal Armitage stood before a group of unlikely allies. The room was dimly lit, its walls lined with glowing panels displaying complex equations and schematics. At the center of it all sat the Ecliptica drive, a sleek, cylindrical device no larger than a small car. Despite its unassuming appearance, it represented humanity's greatest technological leap, a machine capable of bending space-time itself to enable instantaneous travel across galaxies. Dr. Elena Voss adjusted her glasses as she addressed the group. Her voice carried both excitement and urgency. "This isn't just a faster engine," she explained, her hands gesturing animatedly. "It creates stable wormholes that can transport entire fleets, or even planets, across unimaginable distances. It redefines how we think about exploration, logistics, everything." Kale listened intently, his mind racing with possibilities. If they could harness this technology correctly, it might be the key to outmaneuvering the Concordant. But he also knew the risks. Revealing such a powerful invention could provoke the Council into attacking immediately. Still, surrender wasn't an option. Not anymore. Humanity needed something extraordinary to tip the scales in their favor. "What if we use it as leverage?" suggested Captain Mira Solis, leaning against a nearby console. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, daring anyone to challenge her idea. "Instead of handing over raw materials like minerals or energy reserves, we offer them something far more valuable: the Ecliptica drive itself." The suggestion hung in the air, heavy with implications. Zane Cato, the hacker genius, tilted his head thoughtfully. "They'd see it as a threat," he said finally. "If they believe we're trying to weaponize it, they'll crush us before we get the chance." "That's why trust is critical," Kale interjected. His tone was calm but firm. "We don't present it as a weapon. We present it as a gift, a symbol of cooperation, something that benefits not just us, but the entire galaxy." Elena nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. "It could work," she admitted. "But we need to demonstrate its potential without scaring them off. Show them what it can do, not what it might do." Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly to prepare for their audacious plan. They simulated countless scenarios, refining every detail of their presentation. Meanwhile, Kale reached out to influential figures within the United Stellar Alliance, carefully selecting those who shared his vision. Slowly but surely, support began to grow. Even skeptics like Senator Marlowe couldn't deny the drive's revolutionary potential. Finally, the day came when Kell called an emergency session of the Alliance. As representatives filed into the chamber, murmurs filled the air. No one knew what to expect. Rumors had been swirling for hours about some kind of secret weapon. When Kell stepped onto the stage, flanked by Elena and Mira, silence fell over the crowd. For too long, Kale began, his voice steady and commanding. "We've let fear dictate our choices. We've acted as though survival means bowing to oppression. But I say enough is enough." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "Today, I present you with humanity's answer to the Concordant, an innovation so profound it will change the course of history." Behind him, holographic projections sprang to life, showcasing the Ecliptica drive's capabilities. Ships appeared to vanish and reappear light years away. Planets shifted positions seamlessly through artificial wormholes. Gasps rippled through the audience as people realized the magnitude of what they were seeing. "This is our tribute," Kale declared, turning back to face the stunned crowd. "Not gold or minerals, but progress. Not submission, but partnership. Let the Concordant decide whether they want to join us in shaping the future or cling to their outdated ways." For a moment, there was complete silence. Then applause erupted, hesitant at first, then thunderous. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered in the hearts of humanity. But as Kel watched the cheering masses, he couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest battles were yet to come. The Concordant wouldn't take this lying down, and Kel knew that proving humanity's worth would require more than just a groundbreaking invention. It would demand courage, ingenuity, and perhaps even sacrifice. The journey to the Concordant's flagship, the Oblivion Spire, was anything but ordinary. Kel Armitage and his team, Dr. Elena Voss, Captain Mira Solis, and Zane Cato, boarded a sleek diplomatic vessel, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. As they approached the massive alien ship, their nerves tightened. The Oblivion Spire loomed ahead, a monolithic structure that seemed to swallow the surrounding void. Its jagged edges and glowing veins of energy made it look less like a spacecraft and more like a living, breathing predator. "This is insane," muttered Zane as he adjusted the holographic display on his wrist. "We're walking into a lion's den with nothing but a shiny gadget and a prayer." Cale didn't respond immediately. His eyes were fixed on the viewport, watching the colossal ship grow larger with each passing second. He knew the risks. They all did, but turning back wasn't an option. Humanity's survival depended on this meeting. Failure meant annihilation. Success meant rewriting the rules of the galaxy. As their shuttle docked, the group was greeted by a contingent of armed guards clad in shimmering armor. Their weapons hummed ominously, ready to strike at the slightest provocation. The air inside the Oblivion Spire was cold and sterile, filled with faint whispers from unseen beings. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, giving the impression of being inside some kind of organic machine. They were escorted to a grand chamber where the Concordant awaited them. 8 towering figures sat atop floating platforms arranged in a semicircle, their forms ranging from crystalline exoskeletons to amorphous masses of shifting light. At the center stood Lord Sylar, his golden frame radiating authority. His piercing gaze locked onto Cale the moment they entered. "You dare appear before us." Sylar's voice boomed, reverberating through the chamber. "After resisting our demands, you bring only this." Alina stepped forward cautiously, clutching a small case containing a prototype module of the Ecliptica drive. "Your Eminence," she began, her voice steady despite the overwhelming presence of the council members, "we come bearing not defiance, but innovation. This device has the potential to benefit not just humanity, but the entire galaxy." Sylar sneered, his metallic features twisting into an expression of disdain. Benefit or control? Such power could destabilize systems, disrupt trade routes, even collapse civilizations. "Do you think we are fools?" Cale intervened before tensions escalated further. "Lord Sylar, we understand your concerns, but consider this. What if the Ecliptica drive isn't a weapon, but a bridge? A tool for unity rather than division. Imagine instantaneous travel between galaxies, opening new frontiers for exploration and cooperation." One of the other council members, a translucent being with flowing tendrils of light, spoke up hesitantly. "Perhaps there is merit in their proposal," it said, its voice melodic yet cautious. "If their claims hold true." "Silence," snapped Sylar, silencing the dissenting voice. "You would trust these primitives with such technology? They are children playing with fire." Mira clenched her fists, visibly struggling to keep her composure. Zane whispered urgently into Cale's earpiece, relaying data about the ship's security systems. If things turned violent, they had contingency plans, but Cale hoped it wouldn't come to that. To prove their sincerity, Alina proposed a live demonstration. "Allow us to show you its capabilities firsthand," she urged. "Let the drive speak for itself." The council exchanged wary glances. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Sylar nodded curtly. "Very well. But know this, if your demonstration fails, so will your species." As the group prepared for the test, Cale couldn't help but feel the weight of the galaxy resting on his shoulders. One misstep could mean disaster, yet deep down, he believed in humanity's ingenuity, and in the hope that even the most hardened oppressors might see the value of progress over destruction. For now, diplomacy held firm. But beneath the surface, storms brewed, and Cale knew that navigating them would require every ounce of courage and cunning he possessed. The chamber aboard the Oblivion Spire was silent except for the faint hum of energy coursing through the ship. Every eye, human and alien alike, was fixed on the small prototype module of the Ecliptica drive, now placed at the center of the room. Cale Armitage stood beside it, his heart pounding but his expression calm. This was humanity's moment to prove its worth, or seal its fate. "Proceed," Lord Sylar commanded, his golden frame shimmering ominously as he leaned forward in his floating platform. His voice tricked with skepticism, Yet there was a flicker of curiosity beneath his disdain. Even he couldn't ignore the potential implications of what they were about to witness. Dr. Elena Voss stepped forward, her hand steady despite the gravity of the situation. She activated the device, and immediately, a low-frequency vibration filled the air. A glowing sphere of light began to form above the module, swirling like liquid starlight. The bioluminescent walls of the chamber seemed to dim in comparison, as if bowing to the brilliance of humanity's creation. "What you are seeing," Elena explained, her tone measured but confident, "is the formation of an artificial wormhole. It will allow instantaneous travel between 2 points in space." The council members exchanged glances, some intrigued, others skeptical. One of them, a hulking creature with obsidian skin and glowing red eyes, growled softly, its massive claws tapping impatiently against its armrest. Another, a serpentine being with shimmering scales, tilted its head curiously, its forked tongue flicking out, as if tasting the air. Cale gestured toward the viewport behind the council. Outside, a distant asteroid floated lazily in the void. "Watch closely," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. With a nod from Elena, Zankedo tapped a sequence into his wrist console. Instantly, the wormhole expanded, stretching outward until it engulfed the asteroid entirely. For a brief moment, the rock vanished, and then reappeared mere kilometers away from the Oblivion Spire, close enough for everyone to see clearly. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. Even Lord Sylar's stoic demeanor faltered slightly, his sharp features betraying a hint of astonishment. The translucent council member who had earlier voiced support for humanity floated forward, its tendrils of light pulsing excitedly. This defies all known principles of physics," it murmured, almost reverently. "Such precision, such control." But not everyone was impressed. The obsidian-skinned counselor snarled, slamming a fist onto his platform. "A parlor trick. What use is this to us? You claim unity, yet you bring tools that could disrupt galactic order." Cale stepped forward, his voice rising to meet the challenge. "With great power comes responsibility," he countered. "We're not asking you to fear this technology. We're offering to share it. Imagine the possibilities. Colonies connected instantly, resources transported without waste, civilizations thriving because distance no longer divides them." For a moment, the room fell silent. The council members whispered among themselves in languages incomprehensible to human ears. Their discussions grew heated, some gesturing wildly while others remained eerily still. Finally, Lord Sylar raised a hand, silencing the debate. "You speak boldly," he said, his piercing gaze boring into Cale. "But actions speak louder than words. Prove to us that this gift does not mask a weapon." Elena nodded and initiated the final phase of the demonstration. Using the same wormhole, she transported a second asteroid laden with rare minerals directly into the heart of the Concordant fleet. The massive rock materialized harmlessly within a designated containment field, surrounded by dozens of warships. Though harmless, the spectacle sent shockwaves through the council. Some recoiled in alarm, while others leaned forward, captivated. "This isn't aggression," Cale emphasized, sensing the shift in mood. "It's restraint. We have the power to strike, but we choose peace. That's our message today." Cracks began to form among the council. The translucent member spoke again, its melodic voice carrying conviction. "Perhaps these humans are more than primitives. Perhaps they offer something unprecedented." Lord Sylar scowled but said nothing. For the first time, doubt crept into his rigid posture. Humanity's defiance had shaken the Concordant, not with violence, but with vision. As the team prepared to leave, Cale allowed himself a small smile. They hadn't won yet, but they'd planted a seed. And sometimes, even the smallest seeds could grow into forests. News of humanity's audacious demonstration spread faster than the Concordant could contain it. The sight of an asteroid materializing within their own fleet, a feat both awe-inspiring and unnerving, was too monumental to suppress. Within hours, encrypted transmissions leaked across the galaxy, carried by rogue signals and sympathetic informants. Soon, every corner of the cosmos was buzzing with talk of Earth's defiance. On distant worlds oppressed under the Concordance rule, whispers turned into shouts. Beings who had long suffered under the Council's iron grip saw humanity's actions as a spark of hope. On the mining planet of Scifi, enslaved workers paused mid-shift, their glowing helmets tilting toward smuggled broadcasts, showing the Ecliptica Drive's demonstration. On the aquatic world of Cressa, underwater colonies lit up with holographic projections of Cal Armitage's speech. Even in the shadowy depths of outlaw territories, where pirates and rebels thrive, rumors of Earth's resistance ignited fiery debates around smoky cantenas. They stood up to the Concordant, murmured a scared Traxian miner named Rink, his voice trembling with barely contained excitement. If they can do it, why can't we? Rallies erupted on planets once thought loyal to the Council. In the industrial cityscapes of Velocis Prime, massive crowds gathered in defiance, holding banners that read, "Earth showed us how," and "No more tribute." The rebellion wasn't organized. It was spontaneous, fueled by decades of suppressed anger and newfound inspiration. Alien species who had never interacted before now found common ground in their shared hatred for the Concordant. Back on Earth, however, the mood was far from celebratory. While humanity basked in fleeting pride over its triumph, cracks began to form closer to home. Senator Marlowe led a vocal faction, accusing Cal of reckless provocation. "You think this is a victory?" she snapped during an emergency session of the United Stellar Alliance. "The Concordant won't forget what you've done. They'll retaliate, and when they do, billions will die because of your arrogance." Her words struck a chord with many. Factories slowed production as workers debated whether Cal's gamble was worth the risk. Parents shielded their children from news feeds, fearing the worst. Even within Cal's inner circle, doubts surfaced. Captain Mira Solis paced anxiously in Lab 7, her boots clicking against the cold floor. "We showed them our hand," she muttered. "Now they know exactly what we're capable of. What if they decide to strike first?" But Cal refused to waver. Standing at the edge of a crowded plaza in New Geneva, he addressed a restless crowd through a megaphone. His voice carried determination despite the fatigue etched into his face. "Fear is natural," he admitted. "But let me remind you, we didn't fight because we wanted war. We fought because we refused to live as slaves. If we back down now, everything we've achieved will be for nothing." His words resonated with some, but not all. As public opinion fractured further, so did alliances within the government. Some senators called for immediate disarmament, while others demanded reinforcements for Earth's defenses. The discord threatened to unravel humanity's fragile unity, just as external support began pouring in. Delegations from rebel factions arrived secretly on Earth, seeking partnerships. Among them was Tarila, a silver-skinned ambassador from the underground resistance on Scifi. She approached Cal in a secluded meeting room, her luminous eyes reflecting both admiration and urgency. "Your actions have given us courage," she said softly. "But courage alone won't win this fight. Will you stand with us, or leave us to face the Concordant alone?" Cal hesitated only briefly. Then, extending his hand, he replied, "We're stronger together." As alien ships began appearing near Earth's borders, offering aid and solidarity, humanity realized something profound. Their defiance hadn't just inspired others, it had united them. But unity came at a cost. Every ally gained meant another enemy for the Concordant to target. And as tensions escalated, one thing became clear: the galaxy was no longer just watching, it was choosing sides. The stage was set for a battle that would redefine power, freedom, and survival itself. The alliance between humanity and the galaxy's oppressed species was fragile, built on hope rather than trust. While Cal Armitage worked tirelessly to solidify these newfound partnerships, cracks began to form beneath the surface. Suspicion lingered in every conversation, paranoia shadowing every decision. The Concordant wasn't idle either. They watched, waited, and plotted their next move. It started with whispers. Reports trickled in from rebel outposts across the galaxy. Supply lines were being disrupted, communications intercepted, and key operatives targeted. At first, Kale dismissed them as isolated incidents, until a devastating attack struck Lab 7. Late one night, as Dr. Elena Voss reviewed schematics for an upgraded Ecliptica drive, alarms blared through the facility. Within minutes, masked intruders breached the perimeter, their movements precise and silent. "They're here," Zane Cato shouted, his fingers flying over a console as he tried to lock down critical systems. But it was too late. Explosions rocked the building, sending shards of glass and twisted metal flying. Amidst the chaos, Elena frantically grabbed data drives containing blueprints for the drive before fleeing toward an escape pod. Kale arrived moments later, having been alerted by Zane's distress signal. What he saw chilled him to the bone. Smoke billowed through the corridors, and bodies lay scattered, some human, some alien. The attackers weren't random mercenaries. They moved with military precision, wearing insignias that matched those of the Concordant's elite forces. But there was something else. A traitor had guided them inside. Who did this? Kale demanded, his voice hoarse as he helped Elena into the pod. She handed him the data drives, her hands trembling. "I don't know," she admitted. "But whoever it is, they knew exactly where to strike." Back at Earth's orbital command center, the fallout was catastrophic. News of the attack spread quickly, sowing distrust among humanity's allies. Some accused Cal of luring them into a trap, claiming the Concordant wouldn't have acted without provocation. Others questioned whether humanity could truly protect its secrets, or if betrayal ran deeper than anyone realized. Then came the confirmation no one wanted to hear. A high-ranking official within the United Stellar Alliance, a senator named Doran Greaves, had leaked classified information about the Ecliptica drive to the Concordant. His arrest was swift but damning. In a recorded confession broadcast across the galaxy, Greaves claimed he acted out of fear for humanity's survival. "We can't win against them," he argued bitterly. "Better to negotiate peace now than face extinction later." Kale felt the weight of betrayal settle heavily on his shoulders. Worse still, Lord Siler seized the opportunity to twist the narrative. Through public broadcasts, the Golden Council member declared that humanity's defiance had destabilized the galaxy, accusing them of endangering innocent lives. The message resonated with many undecided species, turning potential allies into hesitant spectators. Betrayal struck closer to home as well. During a covert mission led by Captain Mira Solis to intercept enemy communications, her team walked straight into an ambush. Only Mira survived, barely escaping with her life. When she returned, her usual fiery demeanor was replaced with quiet fury. "Someone tipped them off," she told Kale, slamming her fist onto the table. "And I think we both know who." Kale clenched his jaw, knowing she was right. Trust was eroding faster than they could rebuild it. With enemies closing in and allies wavering, Kale realized diplomacy alone wouldn't save them. He needed a new strategy, one that combined ingenuity, secrecy, and sheer audacity. As he stared at the stars outside his window, Kale made a vow. If the Concordant wanted war, they'd get more than they bargained for. Humanity would fight, not just for survival, but for the future of every oppressed being in the galaxy. And this time, there would be no room for betrayal. The stage was set for humanity's ultimate gamble. The Concordant's patience had run out. Enraged by humanity's defiance and emboldened by the betrayal of Senator Greaves, Lord Siler ordered a full-scale assault on Earth. Massive fleets descended upon the solar system, their ships blotting out the stars like a swarm of locusts. Panic rippled across Earth's cities as evacuation alarms blared and civilians scrambled for shelter. Humanity stood on the brink of annihilation, but Cal Armitage refused to surrender. In a hidden command center buried deep beneath Earth's surface, Kale gathered his team one last time. Dr. Elena Voss, Captain Mira Solis, and Zane Cato sat around a glowing holotable, their faces etched with exhaustion, but also determination. "This is it," Cale said, his voice steady despite the chaos erupting above them. "If we lose today, everything we've fought for dies with us." Elena leaned forward, her hands trembling slightly as she activated a holographic map of the solar system. Scattered across key locations were dozens of Ecliptica Drive prototypes, smaller versions of the original device that Cal had secretly deployed over the past weeks. Each one was capable of creating localized wormholes, but when linked together, they formed something far more powerful, a network designed to trap entire fleets in artificial spacetime loops. "It's risky," Elena admitted, her voice tinged with both fear and resolve. "We've never tested the system at this scale. If even one node fails, the whole network could collapse, or worse, destabilize nearby planets." Cale nodded grimly. He knew the stakes. A malfunction could mean Earth itself being torn apart, but there was no other choice. "Activate the grid," he ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." As the Concordant fleet approached Earth, its leaders confident in their impending victory, the first phase of Cal's plan unfolded. From orbital stations and hidden satellites, beams of energy shot out, connecting the Ecliptica nodes into a synchronized web. The golden glow of the wormholes began to shimmer in space, unnoticed at first by the advancing enemy. Then came the ambush. As the Concordant ships entered Earth's orbit, Cale gave the order, "Engage." Instantly, the wormhole network sprang to life. Ships at the forefront of the fleet vanished into swirling portals, only to reappear trapped inside endless loops of distorted spacetime. Dozens of vessels were ensnared within moments, their crews helpless as physics itself bent around them. Lord Sylar watched in horror from his flagship, the Oblivion Spire. "What sorcery is this?" he roared, his metallic frame trembling with rage. His advisors scrambled to respond, but the sheer scale of the disruption overwhelmed their systems. For the first time in millennia, the Concordant faced an adversary who wielded technology beyond their understanding. But Cale wasn't finished yet. Using Zane's hacking skills, the team infiltrated the Concordant's communication channels, broadcasting a message directly to every ship in the fleet and every corner of the galaxy. "This isn't conquest," Cale declared, his voice echoing through the void. "This is self-defense. We don't want war. We want peace. Leave now or face the consequences." The message resonated not just with the Concordant, but with countless species watching from afar. Some saw humanity's actions as reckless provocation. Others viewed them as a desperate plea for survival. Either way, the Concordant's aura of invincibility had been shattered. Yet victory came at a cost. Several Ecliptica nodes overloaded during the operation, causing minor tremors on Earth and damaging nearby colonies. Casualties mounted as stray Concordant ships broke free from the traps and retaliated. Despite the chaos, Cale remained resolute. "We've bought ourselves time," he told his team. "Now we need to use it wisely." Above Earth, the remnants of the Concordant fleet retreated, battered but not defeated. Lord Sylar vowed vengeance, his golden eyes burning with hatred. Humanity had struck a blow against the galaxy's rulers, but the war was far from over. For now, though, Cale allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. Looking out at the stars, he whispered, "Hope isn't enough, but it's a start." The battle was over, but the scars ran deep. Earth's skies were streaked with ash and smoke, remnants of the Concordant's assault before their retreat. Cities lay in ruins, their once bustling streets now eerily silent. Refugees huddled in underground shelters, clutching what little they had left. The cost of humanity's defiance weighed heavily on everyone, especially Cal Armitage. Standing atop a crumbling observation deck overlooking New Geneva, Cale stared at the devastation below. His hands clenched tightly around the railing as guilt gnawed at him. "We survived," he muttered to himself, "but at what price?" Behind him, Captain Mira Solis approached cautiously, her boots crunching against shattered glass. "You did what you had to do," she said softly, though her voice carried an edge of exhaustion. "If we hadn't fought back, none of this would be standing." Cale shook his head. "Surviving isn't enough. We need to rebuild, not just our cities, but trust. If we don't unite the galaxy behind us, the Concordant will come again. And next time, they won't hold back." Rebuilding began immediately, but it wasn't easy. Resources were stretched thin, and tensions simmered among humanity's allies. Some saw Earth's actions as reckless heroism. Others accused them of endangering entire civilizations. Even within the United Stellar Alliance, factions argued fiercely about whether Cale's gambit had been worth the destruction it caused. To mend these fractures, Cale launched an unprecedented diplomatic campaign. He traveled across the solar system, visiting refugee camps, damaged colonies, and rebel outposts. Wherever he went, he listened to grieving families, angry workers, and skeptical leaders. Each conversation reminded him that survival meant more than rebuilding infrastructure. It meant restoring hope. One such visit took him to Zorath IV, the mining planet where rebellion had first ignited. There, Trila, the silver-skinned ambassador from the underground resistance, greeted him warmly despite lingering doubts. "Your technology saved us," she admitted, gesturing toward makeshift shelters housing thousands of displaced miners. "But many are afraid. They wonder if siding with humanity means signing their own death warrants." Cale met her gaze steadily. "I can't promise safety," he replied honestly, "but I can promise something better. A future where no one has to live in fear. That's why we fight. For all of us." His words resonated not just with Trila, but with countless others who heard them through broadcasts shared by rebel networks. Slowly, trust began to return. Alien delegations arrived on Earth, offering aid and support. Engineers from Cressa helped repair damaged hydroponic farms, while Traxian miners provided raw materials for reconstruction efforts. Together, they worked side by side, forging bonds stronger than any treaty. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Voss focused on refining the Ecliptica drive. With input from alien scientists eager to contribute, the team developed safeguards to prevent misuse. "This isn't just humanity's invention anymore," Elena explained during a press conference. "It belongs to everyone willing to use it responsibly." Still, challenges remained. Lord Sylar's threats echoed across the galaxy, warning of retaliation. Dissent within Earth's government persisted, with some calling for Kel's removal. But even amidst uncertainty, small victories emerged. Children played in newly rebuilt parks, laughter rising above the ruins. Artists painted murals celebrating unity, blending human and alien symbols into vibrant masterpieces. Late one night, as Kel reviewed plans for a new orbital station designed to serve as a galactic hub for cooperation, Mira joined him. "You've done more than anyone thought possible," she said quietly. "But are you ready for what comes next?" Cale sighed, rubbing his temples. "No," he admitted. "But readiness isn't the point. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when it feels impossible." As dawn broke over Earth's battered horizon, Cale allowed himself a rare moment of optimism. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger. Though the road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, one truth remained clear. Together, they could reshape the galaxy. Not through fear or force, but through courage, innovation, and unity. For the first time in years, hope felt tangible. And Cale knew it was only the beginning. Years passed, and the galaxy bore little resemblance to what it once was. The Concordant, weakened by their defeat at Earth's hands, had fractured into warring factions. Some of its members sought peace, while others clung desperately to their old ways, vowing vengeance against humanity. But the tide of change could not be stopped. It swept through the stars like wildfire, fueled by the courage of those who dared to dream of something better. On Earth, cities rose anew from the ashes. Towering spires made of gleaming alloys stretched toward the heavens, each one a testament to resilience and innovation. In orbit, the stellar Accord Station, a colossal structure built using ecliptica technology, became the heart of a new movement. It served as both a hub for interstellar diplomacy and a symbol of unity, welcoming delegations from across the galaxy. For the first time in history, beings of all species gathered under one roof to forge alliances, share knowledge, and build a future freed from oppression. Cale Armitage stood on a balcony overlooking the station's central plaza, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes still sharp with purpose. Below him, crowds moved freely, humans mingling with aliens of every shape and size. Children laughed as they chased holographic butterflies projected by Traxian engineers, while merchants shouted offers for goods ranging from crescent pearls to Zorathian crystals. The scene was chaotic yet beautiful, a living embodiment of hope. "Never thought I'd see this day," said Captain Mira Solis, joining him at the railing. Her uniform was adorned with medals earned during the war, though she rarely spoke of her sacrifices. "We actually did it, Cale. Against all odds." Cale smiled faintly, his gaze fixed on the bustling crowd below. "Not me," he replied softly. "All of us. Humanity didn't win because of one person. We won because we stood together. And more importantly, because others chose to stand with us." Mira nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Still, you lit the spark. Without you, none of this would have happened." He shrugged modestly, knowing she was right, but also knowing that leadership wasn't about claiming credit. It was about inspiring others to believe in themselves. As he watched, a delegation of silver-skinned Zorathians approached the podium in the center of the plaza. Their leader, Trila, now an influential ambassador, addressed the crowd in melodic tones, speaking of cooperation and shared dreams. Her words drew cheers from listeners, human and alien alike. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the ripple effects of humanity's defiance continued to spread. Oppressed planets declared independence, overthrowing concordant governors who refused to adapt. Trade routes reopened, no longer controlled by monopolistic overlords, but shared equitably among species. Even former enemies began reaching out, seeking dialogue rather than domination. But challenges remained. Lord Xylar and his loyalists still lurked in the shadows, plotting their revenge. Rogue factions exploited chaos to seize power, threatening fragile alliances. Yet Cale knew these struggles were inevitable. They were part of progress. What mattered was how humanity responded. Together, they faced each obstacle with ingenuity, compassion, and resolve. As the sun set behind the distant curve of Earth, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold, Cale felt a rare sense of peace. He turned to Mira, gesturing toward the horizon. "Do you remember when we thought survival was enough?" he asked. She chuckled softly. "Yeah, funny how things change." "It's not just about surviving anymore," Cale said, his voice steady and filled with conviction. "It's about thriving, about creating a galaxy where everyone has a chance to shine, not just humans, but every being who calls it home." The two stood in silence for a moment, watching as stars emerged one by one in the twilight sky. Each pinprick of light represented a world, a civilization, a story waiting to unfold. Humanity's journey was far from over, but for the first time, the path ahead seemed clear. Cale took a deep breath, feeling the weight of years lift slightly from his shoulders. They had rewritten the rules of the galaxy, not through force or fear, but through courage and collaboration. And though battles lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. The dawn of a new era had begun, an era defined not by division, but by unity. For humanity, and for the galaxy, the best was yet to come.